it, tobacco, we have to talk about how we really have to think about what the plan is going to be. How are we going to change that behavior? And it's relearning something new. That new healthy behavior might seem awkward at first, but as we go on and we keep practicing that behavior and being aware of it and conscious of it, we're going to eventually, it's going to become part of our lifestyle to where we're not going to have to think about it like we did when we first started it. So what does this mean? It means you're going to have to take time to really focus on yourself, and that's okay. As far as feeling guilty, many people feel guilty about taking time for themselves, especially when we're really busy. We've got family obligations, work obligations. You may have other things that are keeping you busy outside of work and family. So we have to remember that by taking care of ourselves, though, we're not only going to improve our own health, but it's going to give us more vitality. We're going to feel better. We're going to have more energy. And this is also going to help the people around us. If we have kids, we're going to have more time to spend, more energy to be with our kids. We're going to feel better. We might be in a better mood. So we want to really emphasize that it is okay to think about yourself. And when you're making this healthy behavior change, be kind to yourself and really just focus on yourself for a while you are making that change and trying to incorporate this new behavior into your lifestyle. So for example, if we want to look at it, an analogy, when we're on a plane, if we have the oxygen mask drop down, the first thing they're going to tell you is if you have a small child next to you, to put your mask on first and then the child, because first you have to take care of yourself, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you may not be there to help assist that child. So we really need to make sure that we understand it is okay to think about ourselves when we're making these changes. So we're going to do a quick poll. We have on here some reasons that people tend to feel guilty about focusing on themselves. So we're going to launch this poll real quick and give you a chance. We'll give you about 20 to 30 seconds to respond to which of these do you feel is what's the primary reason you feel guilty when you focus on yourself? And then we will share these results. So people are answering, which is great, so we'll give it just a couple more seconds here. Okay, so we're going to close the poll, and then we're going to take a look at what these results are here. Okay, so it looks like more than half of you have said that your other responsibilities, you feel like other responsibilities are taking a back seat when you focus on yourself. And it may be that some of these do take a back seat, but as we are making that change, we do want to make sure that we are focused on what we're doing, because it is a new learning process, and we need to give ourselves that time to make that change.
I mean, I feel like even if you want to keep with the analogy of the back seat, we're not throwing it out of the car. I'm not saying, oh, this isn't my responsibility anymore. It's just saying, and this is a necessity for me to figure this out about myself first before I can go and help anyone else. Like, these responsibilities are important, but in order to change my behaviors, I need to really know myself.
Right. That's a great point. So Lena had mentioned vitality, and part of focusing on yourself is focusing on and increasing your vitality. So really, what is vitality? Vitality is the capacity to live, grow, and develop. There are 6 areas you can focus on that are tied to your vitality, and you can remember it with the acronym HEAR ME. The H is for your health. Maybe you have a physical illness, something you've been neglecting, or something that you could give more attention to, so you treat that physical illness. E is for exercise regularly. Exercise can help with many areas of your life, including stress management, increasing your energy, and your overall health. M Healthy offers a variety of options to bring exercise into your life.
from active you to sessions with a personal trainer. Next is to avoid mood-altering drugs. That's the A in Hear Me. Many times we're not thinking about the impact that alcohol has on us or the impact that nicotine and tobacco is having on our mood. Maybe you've been thinking about quitting one or both of these substances, which would help to increase your vitality. There is the mHealthy Alcohol Management Program to help people stop or reduce their drinking, and the Tobacco Consultation Service is here to help people with quitting their tobacco use. The R in Hear Me is for rest, and really, who couldn't use some more rest, some more balanced sleep? I think that's something all of us would appreciate. There are steps that you can take to get more balanced sleep. One example is limiting screen time with electronics close to when you go to bed. So that's something that you can explore, as well as other options to encourage more rest and balanced sleep. There's an upcoming mHealthy program, mHealthy Thrive, which discusses sleep as the forgotten health behavior, and it highlights the relationship between sleep and stress. The M in Hear Me is for mastery. Think about doing, one rewarding activity a day, something daily that doesn't even have to be directly tied to whatever your current goal is. So if we think of an example of maybe someone wants to run a 5K race, but maybe right now you have an injury, so you're unable to run, or maybe you're doing a walk-run combination when you want to build up to having it be just a solid run. So one rewarding activity that you could do is to research running plans and schedules that will help you put into place, something you can put into place once your injury's healed. Doing something like this can be rewarding because you'll have a plan set when the time comes to complete your goal, so once that injury is healed. E is for eating, and we want to think about a balanced diet. This could also be tied to mastery, and that you could start by researching meal plans, thinking about foods that might help you to meet your nutritional and dietary needs. mHealthy does offer nutrition consults, which can help you towards finding that balanced diet and what's going to work for you in your life. So you have the acronym Hear Me and how it relates to vitality. You know that there are unhealthy programs and options that can help to support that. And of course, there are things that you can do on your own. So now the question might be, well, now what? I've got this acronym, so now what do I do with that? So think back on an earlier webinar, and it might be time to start setting some SMART goals. Remember that SMART goals are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. And it's okay to start small. You might have an overall goal to get 8 hours of sleep at night, but maybe your first SMART goal can be related to finding out what's needed to support a more restful sleep routine for you. Because what works for everyone might not be what works for you, so it's exploring options that you think that you can incorporate into your life. And then when we think back to that acronym Hear Me, you may not have time to focus on all 6 areas, and that's definitely okay. Maybe what you do is you pick 1 or 2, and those are the things that you're going to start with. You feel like you've got a good grasp on those, maybe then you move on to some of the other acronyms or the other areas of the acronym and try to incorporate all of that into your life. So we've established what vitality is and reviewed setting SMART goals. So let's talk a little bit about building vitality. Vitality has 4 dimensions that relate to overall health. There's physical, mental, emotional, and social, and then values and spiritual dimension. So having an injury that needs tending to falls under the physical dimension. So think about what you can do to heal that injury or other ways to improve your overall physical health. The mental dimension is related to your mental health as well as to mental stimulation. Consider meeting with the Employee Assistance Program or the Faculty and Staff Assistance Program to care for any mental health concerns. And then think of ways or things that you can do or read to stimulate mental stimulation and increase that part of your life, which can help to build vitality. And thinking about the emotional and social dimension, consider what support you have at home and what you need to do to gain more support from friends and family and to regulate any emotional concerns as well. Sometimes it's helpful to let people know what social support means to you. Maybe you want people in your life to ask you how you're doing with meeting your goals. Maybe you'd rather they not ask until you bring it up. So it's figuring out what works best for you as far as social support as well as emotional support. Values and spirituality can play a very important role in setting goals. Spirituality does not have to mean religion, though it does for some people. Some people find their spiritual side by being in nature, through meditation, things of that nature. Reflecting on your values can also help you with setting and achieving your goals. So let's stop and do a quick poll here. We're going to think about values, what's important to us in our life. So let me pull up this poll here. One second here. Okay. So which of these values is most important to you? And we have 5 listed up there. So we'll give it a few seconds here.
And this might be a hard one to answer because you might say, well, they're all pretty important. And if I put success over my family, that might not seem so good. But these might change at different times. They might rotate through. You might have all of these different things as values. It doesn't mean that picking one over the other at a certain time means that's the only value you have. Part of the reason I lost a lot of weight when I was in college is because I wanted to look good. And looking good was important to me. Doesn't mean I valued my family any less. It just meant at that point I wanted to look good in the mirror.
Yep, that's a good point. So we'll give it just a second here. Looks like most people have voted. Okay. So let's take a look here at what everyone was saying. And so for a good chunk of you, you put family as your #1 value. And that's true for a lot of people. And so when we think about our values and building vitality, it's important to think about how our values can relate to our goals and setting our goals to align with those. So for example, some people might say that they want to lose weight if they put family as their #1 value so that they have the energy to run around with their kids in the yard. Or they might say they want to set an example for people in their family by choosing healthy lifestyle choices. Sometimes with people who are smoking, they'll say, well, I choose to smoke so that I can be around for more time with my family and can have a longer life. So making connections between your values and your goals helps those values really resonate with you and kind of stand out for you. Because sometimes when we're going through behavior change, it can be really hard, and you might say to yourself, why am I doing this? Why did I decide I wanted to exercise more? Why did I decide I wanted to quit smoking? Why did I decide we were going to have more vegetables? Well, it's because you want to be thinking about, well, the reason why I decided to do this is because it's important to me as it relates to my family, having energy to be with them, things of those nature. So making a connection between your values and your goals.
And sorry, Lena, go
Well,
ahead.
that's all right. I was just going to add to that, you know, sometimes we might think that, well, I want to eat better because I, want to live longer, or maybe it's more of a reason that somebody else wants you to do it. And what's really important is that we look at these values as what are important to us, not to somebody else, because it is powerful when you're trying to make a behavior change that is in line with your personal values, not someone else's. That's what's going to help get you through that behavior change and keep you on track.
And I just want to bring up, again, the whole, like what Lena just touched on again, these will change, and they should change from time to time. Doesn't mean that, again, family is not important. With the majority of you picking family here, that's completely understandable. What's interesting to me is that 0% picked success. Which, I mean, is a broad thing. With success in what? What does that mean? But if it's success in a job, that might take precedent to me eating 3 vegetables a day at that certain time. That's okay. It doesn't mean that it's going to always be that promotion. But if we focus on things and really focus on what we want, that's where it's, okay, what am I valuing right now? And it may be different tomorrow. It may be different next week. But that's how we establish behavior change in our life. We link it to things that are really important, because then that keeps us, again, motivated, something we talked about in the second webinar. So.
And then thinking about it, too, it needs to fit with your values, not your neighbors.
Yes.
Something can be kind of a new fad, a quick fix to a problem that may have worked for someone you know, but if it doesn't fit with your values, no matter how good that idea was, probably won't stick for you, which then doesn't help with building vitality.
Great point.
Okay. So in order to continue building our vitality, we want to make sure that we are looking at how do we manage stress. Stress is a major contributor to what we see, especially in tobacco, for relapse or, just not sticking with a plan. So we want to look at the types of stress, the sources of stress that are in our life, and how we manage those. And we oftentimes, when we think of stress, we think of something negative, something that, can make us sick, raise our blood pressure, make us not sleep well. But we also want to talk a little bit about positive stress, because there are stressors in our life that are actually positive. They give us a drive to continue to do something. So stress management is something vital in maintaining a healthy lifestyle. We want to make sure that when we have something negative, such as a difficult life event, a divorce, or a death in the family, or that we can deal with that. Also, we mentioned internal stress on here, and that is things where you may say to yourself, well, I should never put my needs ahead of others. Strong people don't need help. If I don't do it myself, it won't turn out right. So we want to make sure that these things are not getting in the way of our success. For example, if we have these kinds of what we call the negative stressors, we want to look at how do we control these things. We can look at stress management techniques such as engaging in vigorous exercise. Aerobics, good. If we can do it 2 or 3 times a week, it's going to provide us with some real benefits. Taking responsibility for your health. Being healthy, eating healthy, having a healthier lifestyle can help our bodies to deal with stress better than an unhealthy one. Eating right, exercise, getting enough rest, cutting down on things like caffeine and sugars, all these can contribute to helping us manage our stress. Using humor is another one. If we're laughing or we're doing something where we're having a good time, that helps to also relieve our tension. Reading or watching comedies can help restore your perspective. Do things you like to do. It's going to help you to be more refreshed. Practicing relaxation techniques. There are many ways to do this. There's breathing techniques. There are activities such as yoga, tai chi, different kind of activities that can help with relaxation. And then even talking to others. If we just have someone that we can talk to, oftentimes we can do that, then, sometimes we can do that to just help give us that extra support that we need. And when we look at positive stress, we talk a little bit about the stress and versus use stress. And use stress is where we use stress to our advantage. We often want to look at how do we use stress to our advantage? What are things that drive us? And these can be things like if we have a promotion at work, that could be a source of positive stress, because if we want to take on a new challenge and that is something that we decide to do, it's stressful, but yet it's something that drives us and something that we might enjoy doing. Other things like physical activity, whether it's weightlifting, biking, or running, these things are stressful as well, but yet they're providing us with a positive benefit. So managing stress and using positive stressors to our advantage can help us maintain that more energetic and more healthier lifestyle. Do we want to go through some of the questions?
Sure. So we have a question from someone asking, say that we talk about how we have programs that help people who are battling addictions, but are there any programs for people who are living with people battling addictions? All the programs that we have here at mHealthy don't cover that specifically, but what people could do is contact those programs and find out what resources we could offer them in the community, kind of point them in a direction that would be helpful to them. The other thing that we often encourage people to do is if you're living with someone who's battling an addiction, is to ask that person what kind of support might be helpful to them. Because as we mentioned a little bit earlier today, what we need from our family and friends as far as social support can differ from person to person. So one person might want you to ask, let's say if we're talking about quitting smoking, They might want their loved ones to check in daily and say, well, how are you doing with quitting? Other people might prefer that you don't ask them how they're doing and that they'll bring it up for you. But if you do have more specific questions, do feel free to contact our programs directly, and then we could help point you in the right direction or in a direction for you.
And we just got another question, and this is Brett again, I can try to answer this one. It says, do you have any tips for someone living with family members with chronic illnesses, such as cardiac disease or MS, or any of these things that are challenging for exercise or bringing in different foods or whatever it may be? Again, it's reaching out to, our programs don't necessarily handle that as of right now, but it's maybe reaching out to our programs like you're doing right now and getting some different ideas. The great thing with MS is there's great physical therapists that will work with MS. I know personal trainers can do that as well and set up, reaching out to a gym or reaching out to even our M-Healthy Fitness Center, over at the Ice Cube. I know works with a lot of special populations on designing exercises in order to then help that person become more active. So that could be something you could reach out to. I personally, as a trainer, haven't had a ton of experience with those special populations, but I know we do have people on staff who work with individuals that have those needs. So that might be looking into something. Again, you can find the contact info for the M-Healthy Fitness Center at the Ice Cube right here in Ann Arbor on our M-Healthy website. We have a great facility set up right in there, and I know we do work with people that have those needs. So that's a great question. That can be very challenging because if you're seeking social support, but yet we can't all do the same thing together, that's a little bit harder. So great question. I would direct you towards that M-Healthy Fitness Center over at MFit at the Ice Cube. So, great question.
And we had a question about the sound and being able to hear everyone equally. We apologize that we didn't all, speak at the exact same tone. We did our best and are hoping that you were able to get from it, most of the content. We'll have a recording of this as well as all the other webinars, recordings and slides available. We're working on distributing those and making them available. So hopefully if you weren't able to hear everything crystal clear, you'll have a chance to maybe give it another listener to go through the slides. So thanks for your patience with that.
Other questions? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar and remind you that M-Healthy offers a variety of programs to help you meet your wellness needs. You can find a listing of all of our M-Healthy programs and descriptions of each program at our website at www.mhealthy.umich.edu. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.